Rugby's greatest rivalry, folks. The first test is on the horizon. Are the All Blacks ready for the box? Well, we'll find out in about a week, just under. But they are 3 from 3 thus far. We've kind of had 3 very different results. We'll have a look back at those pretty quick. They highlighted some concerns, some things which have been going well. We'll go through some stats, who have been kind of standout players, and what's been going on with the roster itself, because there has been quite a few changes, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on where you reckon the All Blacks are in the scheme of things compared to where the Boks are. First result was that Stormers 38-21 result, which is the one which kind of didn't meet the expectations, if you want to put it that way. If you look at the predictions of all 3 games, you've kind of got one where they didn't meet the expectations, by which you mean like the predicted margins, one where they beat it, and one where it pretty much went according to where the bookies had it. Like my mate Tony from the podcast we do together, Two Cents Get Distracted, he basically said all these games are kind of no-win because the win is expected. So no matter what happens, you can't really win. You can either underperform or just be told the team you were playing is not that good anyway. So there's been a mixed bag. The first result against the Stormers, I do think, highlighted a few good things. We still struggle with the high balls, which I think they worked on for game 2, clearly. And there were some big issues at scrum time. The scrums have gotten, well, the discipline generally have gotten progressively better, I think. So maybe that game was a bit of a wake-up call. ALB was the player of the match for that one, despite getting a yellow card. We want to keep 15 guys on the field if possible, but in that game, he did have a heap of carries, 14 carries, 74 meters, beat 3 defenders, made 10 from 10 tackles, including a high shot, which got him yellow carded, and won himself a turnover, so he was player of the match in that first one. The second match was against the Sharks. Like I said, it was a real blowout. The kind of highlight of that match was Ma'anonu doing a haka back to the All Blacks. That was probably the only thing that game will be remembered for. Geordie Barrett was your player of the match for that one. He was on absolute fire. His distribution, I think, is the key point of his performance. Like 11 kicks, 13 passes, and only 4 carries. Like I know sometimes people give Geordie Barrett grief for not being Ma'anonu or like Nani Laumape, who can just run through guys all the time. He still had 4 carries for 41 meters, which is a great return for his like meters per carry, couple of line breaks, but his 11 kicks and his 13 passes, man, was finding all kinds of space in the backfield, setting up the guys around him. That's why you play him. Also managed to score a try, so player of the match in that second one. And then against the Bulls, which is the one that was good scoreless first half from an All Blacks defensive perspective, but conceded a few in the second. 50 points to 19 to put 50 on the Bulls was still pretty good. Anton Segner was an absolute defensive powerhouse in that game. He was the All Blacks top tackler with 13 from 13, won 3 turnovers, didn't concede any penalties, had 12 carries as well, so he's genuinely really busy and competitive in that back row. But I mentioned the discipline. Things have been getting better. First game was 16 penalties conceded, second game was 8, third game was 8. And of those penalties that were conceded, first game, 5 were the props. Tossi was copping it at scrum time in that first game, which is a good wake-up call for them, given that if he's up against a shorter prop, potentially by the Bok pack, hopefully he's had a bit of practice how to deal with that. 2 prop penalties in the second game and 1 prop penalty in the third. So the props have been getting pinged less. Does that mean much ahead of the Springboks? I don't know, because the Springboks is going to be a whole different kettle of fish. Dave Rennie's, what did he say, like 5 or 10 times is what they'll be facing when they actually face the Boks, but we can only go on what we've seen thus far, and there have been some steps in the right direction. All Blacks have been more effective at the breakdown, because the first game, it was the Dion Ferree show for the Stormers. We only won 3 turnovers that game, but it was 5 turnovers won in the second and 7 turnovers won in the third. So the All Blacks, as I said, progressing one way kind of nicely. So if you take the results out of the equation and just look at the performances, those signs are encouraging. And the line breaks just continue to be a staple of Dave Rennie's All Blacks. They love getting the space. They love getting the width. Sometimes it'll probably have to be a bit reined in, maybe against the Springboks. I don't know. Maybe you just go a maximum like offloads and run it out your 22. Maybe they bring it a bit more conservative. I don't know. Can you beat the Springboks if you go more conservative, or do you need to just go full All Blacks? 7 line breaks in the first game, 15 in the second, and 12 in the third. So still a really dangerous attacking side. and fairly stingy on conceding, like 5 conceded against the Stormers, 1 against the Sharks, and 3 against the Bulls. So keeping the opposition slightly more quiet in terms of pure line breaks. So yeah, some encouraging stats. Some things have been worked on. It's a shame we didn't get more high balls from the Bulls. They clearly were not kicking the All Blacks high balls, but we got a lot from the Sharks, which the All Blacks seem to handle a bit better. So like I said, there are some encouraging signs. Whether that means Bok ready, as I said, whole different kettle of fish. What about the squad itself? We have lost 4 guys sent home already. We lost George Bell before we'd even kicked off. He got an injury in training. The hooker, Billy Proctor, injured in that first game. Caleb Clark also sent home. And then the most recent one is Ollie Norris. So a couple of our front rowers, a midfielder and an outside back. They've called in Bradley Slater as the replacement hooker. He got some game time in the second match from the bench. The Blues hooker. Richie Mo'unga is obviously the big name that was called back in to replace Proctor, which is not exactly a like-for-like, bringing in a first 5 to replace a midfielder, but he's an All Blacks veteran, been to World Cup and whatnot, so he comes in. And then Noah Hotham is the latest call-in. Not that we've lost a halfback yet, but there are some concerns, because despite the fact that there are no halfbacks on the kind of out list, we've got Cam Roigard, who hasn't played a minute yet. They pulled him out of that Sharks game with a tight calf, and then Ratima has got a potential niggling injury as well. So they've called in another halfback as cover. So we could potentially, if Roigard and Ratima are both out, we could be going in to the first test with Preston and Hotham, which would basically, in the pecking order recently, be our 3rd and 4th choice halfbacks, which would not be ideal. Roigard is absolutely the one guy we want back. But also, All Blacks all-time top try scorer, Will Jordan, has not played a minute at the tour yet either. So there's a few concerns there. They did get Lomax in, they did get Taylor in, who've both been short of rugby in that final game against the Bulls. So that was encouraging, but still no Will Jordan, no Cam Roigard. Mo'unga's only just joined in, so to be expected that he hasn't played yet, but they're lining him up against the Lions apparently. And Ardie Savia's only just joined the squad recently, but you can lock him in for the first test for sure. The captain, who's been having a bit of extra rest. So what does this all tell us? I think the All Blacks are making progress. Dave Reddy's only recently taken over the All Blacks, so the amount of game time they've had together has been very limited. I don't think you take much from the results, but you do take something from the performances, from the cohesion they're building, from just practicing the game plan. I don't know if that means they're Bok ready. They're still going to be big-time underdogs, the All Blacks, but man, if they can catch some high balls, if they can, scrummage, at least get some parity, not be pinged too often, there'll be a chance, man, because they'll chuck the ball around, but it's going to be a massive, massive battle this coming weekend. You guys let us know your thoughts. How far off do you reckon the All Blacks are from the Springboks at the minute? Fingers crossed Roigard is fit, man. Knock on wood. If you want All Blacks gear, check the All Blacks store down in the description. By the way, the All Blacks shop is an official affiliate of this channel. I got this jacket from them. It's pretty nice. Keeping me warm on a brisk Auckland morning. But anyway, you guys take care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.